Okay, I had someone tell me a couple of days ago that I should make a video or videos about the time me and Blake stick together. Well, it's hard to believe that tomorrow has been gone a month, and everybody tells me it's gonna get easier. But it seems like every day that you're gone, it gets harder and harder because at one point in time you were my life, and it's not a day that goes by that I don't think about all the times we spent together.
This is a video Blake's
And
ex-girlfriend Skylar
I'm so
posted to
thankful.
YouTube
I
about a
think
month after he
how
went
I got with
missing.
you. It seems like no matter where I go, you're there. And honestly, I just wish you'd come back. And I know that's not gonna happen. But I do miss you. And I do love you. And I'm sorry for the way things happen.
From Crawlspace Media, I'm Jennifer Amell. This is the second and final part of Blake Chappelle's story. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back and listen to that first.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program.
Let's back up to the night of Saturday, October 15th of 2011. Blake was so excited to take his girlfriend Ryan to the homecoming dance. Here's Melissa, Blake's mom.
I took him to Kohl's about midday, and because he had to buy a tie, and he wanted a tie that matched his girlfriend's dress. Now, I took him to the store, and he bought himself another cell phone. Now, Blake didn't work, but he would take and buy like Monster drinks and things like that and take them to school and sell them for a little bit of a markup, mainly just to get gear to match his motorcycle, because he had the Monster green and white Kawasaki 250. He was also receiving money monthly along with his child support from his father. So he had quite a bit of money every month. You know, I didn't let him have all of it. I did use some of it for expenses, but he got a pretty good amount that he would use on whatever he wanted. Anyway, I dropped him off at Kohl's. Not dropped him off. I was waiting in the parking lot while he went in. So he's texting back and forth with his girlfriend, and I went back to explain why he's now got a cell phone. And she's texting him, you know, her dress, and they're talking back and forth about, you know, what color tie to get. And so he finally settles on a tie. I guess it was no less than an hour and a half. The poor kid was in there and looking for a tie, and he didn't know how to tie a tie. I guess he didn't realize that I did. So when he purchased the tie, I guess because he was in there for so long, I think one of the security officers or whatever was probably at some point watching him, because there was an older man, he said, standing by the register when he bought the tie. And he asked him if he would tie the tie for him. And he was like, oh, sure, man, no problem, you know. And because when he came out of the store, the tie, he already had it on and it was tied. And I thought that was really nice of the guy inside. He's like, I didn't know how to tie it, he said. And he was standing there, so I asked him to, you know, tie it. And
What color was the tie?
his tie was purple, like a lavender purple. Her dress was like a black lace, and through the lace you could see lavender, an undershell of lavender. He wore a black shirt, long sleeve shirt, dress shirt, and black slacks. and he had the lavender tie. And I've got pictures of them before they went to homecoming that day. And he was a little concerned. He was letting his hair grow out, but he always wore a baseball cap. And he told me later, he said, you know, I wished that he wished that he would have went ahead and got a haircut. I said, well, you know, you can get a haircut. And he goes, well, he kind of went back and forth with it anyway. He was trying to let it grow out, but he didn't know whether or not he should have got it cut. But anyway, I could tell he was a little uncomfortable in his pictures because his hair had grown out. Well, I dropped him off at his girlfriend's parents' house. They take pictures. They go out to eat at a sushi restaurant right up the street from Summer Grove in Noonan. And Blake was really excited. Her mom told me, because she was the only girl that he knew that liked sushi, and he really loved sushi. So they went and had dinner. It was determined, I guess, that they had about $150 between the two of them. And dinner, I think she said, cost about $80. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because it's important things that I ask later on about, you know, Blake's belongings and his money and his wallet and all of these things. So they had dinner. Her mom picks them back up. They go back over to her parents' house. They start watching a movie, having popcorn. Then they stop the movie and they go to homecoming dance.
Blake danced all night long. He danced so much he got sweaty and removed his purple tie and dress shirt. Ryan's mom picked them both up, and they went to her house to finish the movie. Ryan's mom then drove Blake to his friend Austin's house to stay the night. Blake called his mom from Austin's home phone.
So he calls me and he says, Mom, I had the best day of my life. You know, he said we danced and told me, you know, that they went out to eat and they watched movies or a movie. And he goes, you know, can I stay the night tonight here? And I remember thinking about it for, you know, a minute or so. And I'd already been thinking about it all day long. But I told him, I said, you know, yeah, Blake, you can go ahead and stay at Austin's. I said, but I'm telling you right now, you better not leave that house. He said, okay, Mom, I promise I won't. Mama. He always called me Mama. And he told me he loved me. And I told him I loved him. And we hung up. And that was the last time I ever heard from him.
It's hard to say what actually happened to Blake that night. The stories of Ryan and his friend Austin are pretty straightforward, though Blake did a lot of moving around the evening of October 15th into the early morning hours of the 16th. Despite telling his mom that he'd stay put at Austin's, he didn't.
So apparently, at some point, Austin and Blake left Austin's parents' house, which was a condo, our townhouse, right at the kind of entrance of Summer Grove, the main entrance.
Summer Grove is a well-kept, middle-class suburban neighborhood. It has a golf course and a pool and pockets of green space with jogging trails that pass over idyllic streams. Summer Grove isn't a dangerous place.
Austin told me that him and Blake got into a little bit of an argument because he wanted to go over and see his girlfriend. And Austin didn't want him to go. Now, the girlfriend lived approximately, I believe it's almost exactly 3 miles from Austin's house. But as a bird flies, it was a little shorter than that, I guess. That Austin gave him directions through the woods is what he said. to get over to the girlfriends. Now, there was a little bit of confusion as to how he actually did that, because there was a couple of waterways that Blake would have had to have crossed to go through the woods to get to the girlfriend's house. So I'm pretty sure he probably did not go through the woods. He probably went the direction that the girlfriend's mother drove him over to Austin's house, because he pretty much knew the area around Summer Grove, not necessarily in Summer Grove.
The route that Blake is suspected to have taken to Ryan's house is either by way of Summer Grove Parkway or Lower Fayetteville Road. This would make sense according to Austin's story, who said he last saw Blake on Market Square Road, right at the entrance to Summer Grove.
At some point, Blake leaves Austin and goes over to the girlfriend's house. Sneaks in the window. Long story short, the grandmother hears them talking, catches Blake in the room, goes and wakes up the mother. The mother comes in and Blake's gone. Blake apparently asked the girlfriend, do you want me to stay or do you want me to go? She said, no, just go, 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 go. And so Blake left before the mother got into the room. The mother starts texting Blake, and the girlfriend is texting Blake, you know, what were you doing here? You know, this is very disrespectful. And Blake's upset, and he's promising, I'm sure that he's probably crying, and he's promising her that he'd never do it again, you know, through text. And the last text that was sent on his phone was like a 15-20 minute period that he was walking. The last text he sent to the girlfriend was something on the lines of, damn, I'm cold. He said, I got pulled over by the police. He said, the cops pulled me over, asked me who I was and where I was going, and let me go, because this was like 5:30 in the morning. And the girlfriend was still texting, and after that, she got no response from Blake.
If you ask veteran investigative journalist John Winters, who covered Blake's case extensively, this text about the cop is the single most important piece of information in this case.
There's no record that I can find that anyone involved in law enforcement stopped him. According to the police, Blake was not stopped. He wasn't stopped by the Georgia State Patrol, the county sheriff's office, the Noonan police. He was 17, so he would have been under curfew. Police are adamant that no one involved, no first responder, law enforcement stopped. Because I mean, that's just simple, you know, basic procedure that if you're stopping anybody and you're a police officer, I mean, you're calling in and saying, hey, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. That's for their own safety as well. That never happened. And Blake never makes it back to his friend's house. So the great question is, who stopped it? And I think that is the key unanswered question. Something happened there. Okay, let's just, go all conspiracy theory here. Let's say it was the police. Well, what are they going to do? I mean, if the police are kidnapping him, well, where the hell did they take him? And what, you're just going to say some cop's going to do this and the entire police department's going to be okay with it? Besides the police saying they didn't, no one stopped him. I mean, dispatch knows where all the vehicles are. I mean, there's, literally a map so they can go, hey, I mean, it's just part of how you call who you want to go where. There was none of that. So that raises the great, question of, well, who was it? And, One theory is that people who are out to get Blake for various reasons grabbed him there. The number one problem with that is, and what everyone has always said, how would anyone know where Blake was at any specific time and where? But again, he's walking. They don't know. There's 3 or 4 ways he could have gotten back. And they can't say, well, he's going to be right here at this spot. And I mean, that's just, now we're getting into the realms of lost reality.
I got a call from Austin at 11 o'clock the next morning telling me that Blake is missing. And of course I asked him, I said, I don't understand, Austin. You're telling me Blake's missing. How can he be missing? He stayed the night with you. He was with you. Where is Blake? I kept asking, where is Blake? Where? And at this point, I am losing it. I'm losing my mind. This was the first time I let him stay the night with someone. And now he's missing.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
And a thank you to our sponsors. Back to the program.
So that was October the 16th. He was missing for 2 months and 3 days. A jogger jogging through the Summer Grove neighborhood called the police and stated that she thinks that she has seen what looks to be a body in the creek.
One day, there's just this call on the police scanner, and they found a body in a creek in the Summer Grove subdivision. You didn't really find anything other than a body being found. It was the next day, as things started to unroll, they found out that it was Blake. All we knew is that he had been shot. They would not say how many times or where, and that his body had been in the creek for some period of time.
We don't know much about the state of Blake's body. It was on December 19th, 2011, that the jogger found Blake's body in White Oak Creek. He was face down in the water, dressed only in his white undershirt and boxers. The medical examiner noted at least 1 gunshot wound to his head, and that the caliber of the bullet was between a .22 and a .45, so it wasn't a shotgun. It appeared as though Blake was killed elsewhere, and then dumped into the creek. What is baffling is that a time of death could not be determined. Both Melissa and John got the impression that Blake's remains would have been in a greater state of decomposition had he been in the water the whole time. Other than that, police have been tight-lipped concerning details of Blake's remains. His mother says he was identified by a small tattoo of a Playboy bunny on his upper chest. She said she had disapproved of the tattoo. So this begs the question, was Blake killed in the early morning hours of October 16th? Or if he wasn't, where was he for the 2 months he remained missing? No one, it seems, has an answer. Let's go over the timeline of Blake's night in greater detail. At 7 p.m. on the night of October 15th, Ryan's mom Shannon drops the couple off at the homecoming dance. She then picks up Blake and Ryan at 10:30 p.m. and drives them back to Ryan's, and they watch a movie for about an hour. Shannon says Blake was hot and removed his black dress shirt and lavender tie and left them in her kitchen. Around 11:30 p.m., Shannon drives Blake back to Austin's house, where Blake makes the phone call to his mother. Between 11:30 p.m. and 12, Blake and Austin walk to the BP gas station near the entrance to Summer Grove. Austin said they, quote, texted friends and were hanging out, but it's unclear if they actually met up with other people or if they were just texting them. Then Austin said he and Blake got back to his house a little after midnight. At 2 a.m., Blake sends a text to Ryan saying he was planning to come back over to her house. According to Austin, Blake comes into his room between 2 and 3 a.m. and says he's going over to Ryan's. Since it was a chilly 53 degrees Fahrenheit that evening, Austin gave Blake a windbreaker jacket to wear on his walk and house keys to get back in. At 4:30 a.m., Ryan awakes to another text from Blake saying he's coming over. And shortly after that, he tries to scare Ryan by climbing in through the window. She says she remembers that Blake was, quote, freezing. But he wasn't wearing Austin's jacket. He was wearing a white hoodie with Aeropostale written in brown letters across the front. He did not have Austin's jacket with him. And at approximately 5 a.m., Blake gets caught by Ryan's grandmother and hightails it out of the window before Shannon comes into the room. Between 5 a.m. and 5:30 that morning, Blake is texting both Ryan and her mother, apologizing for having snuck over. Then his last text is sent a little after 5:30 a.m. But there's some time missing. Between 3 and 4:30 a.m., during the time that Blake left Austin's house and was walking to his girlfriend's. Ryan lived about 3.6 miles away, and it would not take Blake an hour and a half to walk that distance. Where did Blake go during this time? This, I believe, is a crucial question. And then there's the hoodie. Austin said he never got his jacket back. Melissa, Blake's mom, says the hoodie belonged to Blake. There's also an unconfirmed detail that Blake had a backpack with him when he left to go to dinner and homecoming. Melissa doesn't think Blake took it with him, but if he did, he would have likely stashed it in Shannon's car. But the backpack remains missing. There's another story that Blake left his backpack at Austin's house. Austin claims to have lost the backpack later in a move. But why wasn't this turned over to police? Or why didn't Austin return the backpack to Melissa? The question is, how did he get his hoodie if it wasn't with him before? Did Blake manage to walk home to get it in between walking from Austin's to Ryan's? Unless Blake was walking extremely slowly, he had to have gone somewhere else in the missing time. When Blake's body is found, he's only in his undershirt and boxers. Of the item Blake was seen in or with that night, his pants, his hoodie, wallet, cell phone, and Austin's jacket and house keys were never recovered. If any of these items are found, we might be able to piece together what happened to Blake that night.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
And a thank you to our sponsors. Back to the program.
As far as the investigation went, John Winters documented his trip to the Noonan Police Department. He wrote that Deputy Chief Riggs had eliminated 2 suspects and that a third, quote, could not be placed in Coweta County. We're not sure who these 3 suspects are, but my mind goes to motive and those who last saw Blake. The first is Ryan and her parents. Blake had been caught in a compromising situation with their daughter, and it makes sense that they might be angry with him. However, Blake was in the midst of texting with Ryan and her mother Shannon, as he was walking home. This is documented. Additionally, police interviewed that family extensively. They searched their house and eventually ruled all of them out, including Ryan's dad. Then there's Austin. While it's true Austin has since had a few brushes with the law, including assault and robbery, there is absolutely no reason for him to have killed Blake. In fact, the only source we have saying Blake and Austin got into a fight about him going to his girlfriend's house is from Blake's mom. I cannot independently verify that Austin himself said he got into an argument with Blake. Then we have Earl, the stepfather to Blake's ex-girlfriend Skylar, back in Clayton County. He had a history of beating up Blake, of threatening him and other kids with a gun. Charges for interference with custody over the alleged running away with Skylar had recently been dropped against Blake. Perhaps Earl still held a grudge against Blake. Earl could be the suspect that the police could not place in Coweta County. Do you have any idea who could have done this?
These people are trying to make me feel like I'm fucking crazy or something. I mean, isn't it obvious who did this? To me, it can't get any more obvious.
And what did the police say?
That they can't place him in the area. I don't know. The police won't tell me anything. They wouldn't tell me the condition of my son's body. I never got to identify him. I never got to see him. I never got nothing. They wouldn't tell me nothing. Just that he was executed. So I don't know. I don't know what they've gotten from anybody other than this poor girl, this girlfriend's parents.
Over the years, Melissa has had to entertain every possible scenario of her son's death, every possible suspect. I happened to catch her in a moment where Melissa is convinced she knows who killed Blake. It's even heavily implied here, editorially. But I must make it clear, we do not know who killed Blake Chappelle. The police do not know who killed Blake Chappelle. While we're not denying that motive exists for Earl to have harbored a grudge against Blake, it's still a far cry from murder. And there's the big question of how Earl would have known Blake was traveling along this particular route at this odd hour. But anything is possible.
Now, where is the investigation now? Is it still open? Are they still doing work on it?
Supposedly it's still open. They've assigned new people to it. They started, with this online page for unsolved cases. The detectives that started out on the missing persons case he took over the homicide case, and he's the chief of police now. Now, I don't have any hard feelings against Noonan PD, don't get me wrong. I might sound a little harsh. It's only from the aggravation, because I know that they really want to find this person too. But I think what caused this case to be hung up and stuck where it is an officer assuming that a 17-year-old that goes missing is a runaway, because it was never investigated properly from the beginning. And 2 months is a long time for evidence.
Eventually, journalist John Winters reached out to Melissa.
At first, she didn't want to talk, and I don't blame her. But I just kept writing stories, and I think she finally saw that, I was trying to figure out what happened. And we met, first time we met in the church parking lot. And we're in each other's, talking to each other through the car windows, and finally said, look, I'm just jumping in it because it was cold. I remember that. So we just sat there and we talked, and she gave me a copy of his bucket list. You know, and you kind of look at it and go, golly, he had just started on it, really. And so we just kept talking.
The editor in chief at the time of the Noonan newspaper, John Winters, worked so hard on Blake's case. He even came to Blake's funeral. I've worked with him from the very beginning, but to be honest with you, he, to me, was the only person that was working this case from the beginning.
I want to say, at the time, I think there were only 3 unsolved murders in the city. And this is going back quite a period of time. And I don't know if that has changed. I mean, this is one of the very, very, very few cases that have not been solved. I think it's still in the police department's conscience, especially. I mean, no police department, you know, wants to have a cold case. And we're not talking about, you know, Philadelphia and Chicago. I mean, we're talking about, you know, nice Noonan, you know. And if we had 5 unsolved cases, I'd be surprised.
I know as a reporter, and especially as a crime reporter, you sort of have to put up safeguards against feeling too deeply about the subject matter you cover. But I'm wondering if this case like affected you in a different kind of way.
I think it did, simply because I covered it from the moment the body was found. And every year or so, I'd kind of do a big follow-up. You know, I got kids that age. I think just the, you know, he's walking home and he disappears. I mean, that's just, you know, this is not a kid gets struck by a car, or this kid gets struck by a stray bullet in the middle of a gang fight, or this, you know, kid is robbing a bank and gets shot. This is a kid who just had the time of his life, and he's going back to where he's staying, and he never makes it. And someone killed him. And we don't know why. And we don't really know when. And we sure don't know who yet. You know, I mean, that's kind of the, you know, rules of journalism, the 5 W's and the H: who, what, where, when, why, how.
In the years that followed, Melissa tried to find a way to keep on living without her youngest son. What struck me after speaking to Melissa is how well she recounted everything that happened in those 2 years leading up to Blake's eventual murder. Listening to her, you fall into Melissa's world. Trauma can do that to a person. Even though 10 years have passed, it's still so immediate, so fresh, and so painful in Melissa's memory.
I mean, how much of this is still a part of your life?
Every waking moment, to be honest with you. I'm a hermit. I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything but sit. I sleep most days, to be honest with you. It has affected me mentally and emotionally to the point where I just can't function. I can't take care of myself. I can't function. I can't, you know, I can't do normal daily life tasks, you know, and it's a mixture of both, you know, physically not able and mentally not in that mental space, you know. It's taking everything I have to try and do these podcasts and to work with Lachanda.
But I want to introduce a new person that entered Melissa's life. Her name is Lachanda. She works with John Lorden's YouTube show, Brain Scratch. While researching Blake's case for that show and helping to create another excellent episode on Blake entitled The Homecoming Killer, she actually got to speak with Melissa.
Oh, that's my heart. She is amazing. She is so amazing. It was weird to talk to somebody for the first time that I had never spoken to before. I've never met her in person. I speak to her almost every day. I understand, I take that back. I don't understand the support because I've never been in her shoes. I know she needs support, but sometimes I feel like I can never. I've never gone through what she's going through, so I can empathize and feel for her and want to be there for her. But to really understand what she's going through, I don't. I don't know. So I just tried to be as much of a support and friend as I can possibly be. And I really wish she saw the strength in her that a lot of other people see. Just that she is a fighter. She's such a fighter, and she's just not willing to let anything stop her from getting the answers for her son. Just seeing that in her, and then seeing it in the life with my mom, it brings that connection together between the two. That's why I was just like, I have to stick with her for this one, because she's just so amazing. She's so amazing.
I always find it so miraculous that people find each other, even in the midst, or perhaps because of, immense suffering. Since becoming friends, Lachanda has helped Melissa with everything from social media to reaching out to various news organizations and podcasts to start spreading the word again. She wants to help Melissa's mission to tell the world, scream it from the rooftops if she has to, that Blake lived, that his life meant something, and that his murder is unsolved.
It's funny, and I think it embarrasses my older son when I say this, because I compare Blake to Justin Bieber. For one, to me, they look a lot alike. Not necessarily when Justin was younger, and Blake was younger, but they've had similar lives in a lot of ways. And Blake loved writing. He liked to write rap songs. And I could just, I watch Justin nowadays, and I think, wow, that's probably what Blake would be doing, or that's what it would look like, if Blake was here and he was doing that. And so, I have a Justin Bieber, I won't use the word fetish, but
You're a fan.
There we go. I have an appreciation for Justin Bieber.
Blake could have been anything. Maybe he could have even crossed out all the items on his bucket list. He could have accomplished something great, proved all the haters wrong, gone to a party, driven a foreign car, flown to England, been silent for the whole day, become a grandfather, talked to his dad more often, been in a movie. If you have any information on the death of Blake Chappelle, please contact the Noonan Police at 770-254-2350. Or you can contact Private Investigations for the Missing directly at PIFTM tips@gmail.com or on their toll-free line at 1-866-331-6660. Remember, you can remain anonymous. Missing is a Crawlspace Media production. This episode was produced and edited by myself, Jennifer Amell, with research by Private Investigations for the Missing Volunteer, Kathleen Studer.